Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Bob Ray. I'm the Canadian ambassador and PR, and I'm very, very, very pleased to be here and to welcome this distinguished group. We know that this day, we have so many days that we celebrate, but this day we're marking International Migrants Day, which takes place on December 18th every year. And this day is set aside to recognize the really important and I think indispensable contribution of migrants, as well as to highlight the challenges that people are facing in the world today. I would like to thank, and I'm afraid I have to go through this list because we don't want anyone to feel that they've been left out. I'd like to thank the group of Friends of Migration, the Permanent Mission of Germany to the UN, the Global Compact for Migration Champion Countries Initiative for their co-sponsorship of this important event, with a particular thanks to the current co-chairs of the Champions Initiative, that is to say Morocco and El Salvador. I also want to thank the NGO Committee on Migration and Battery Dance for their organization of this event, as well as the Deputy Director General for Operations of the IOM, Ugochi Daniels, who I just had the pleasure of meeting, for being here today. I just want to say a couple of other things to people in welcoming you. We are one of those countries, Canada is a country where our whole personality and identity has been transformed by migration. Initially, not in a good way, because the first great migration was the movement of people from Europe to an indigenous country, a country made up of indigenous people. And so the transformation was brutal and difficult and painful. And we're still collectively dealing with the trauma of this transformation of our country. But since that time, and particularly in the last 50 years, we've really seen a dramatic change in the way in which we are able to respond to migration and the way in which we have learned that it is a defining part of Canadian identity. The second thing I want to say is that migration is happening in a whole number of ways in the world today, much of it involuntary, much of it because of displacement, because of conflict, because of growing economic gaps for people, because of discrimination against people, because of climate change, because of all the factors that are at work in a whole number of places. You look at any continent, and you will see the signs of the great transformation in our own region of the world, the Americas. I was in Darien just a few weeks ago, about 8 weeks ago, to see for myself the transformation of the way in which migration was impacting the people who were being forced to move and how the numbers in which they were moving. We're now looking at 5,000 people a day coming through from Colombia to Panama and then up through the Americas. And quite honestly, I don't believe enough people know enough about what is happening out there. Enough people don't realize the challenges that we face. And many people still go in safe and orderly ways. They apply, they come, and they're accepted, and we have all sorts of programs to deal with it. But now we're dealing with a situation in which there are more and more people who are being forced to move, being forced to go somewhere, desirous of getting somewhere, and looking for safety and looking for security. I think it's really important for us to help each other as we go through this period of change, to help and deal and have conversations with people who are facing these challenges at a personal level. And as someone said to me the other day, all you have to do is just go down to the Roosevelt Hotel and start talking to people and ask them, where did they come from? How did they get here? Where do they want to go? What are they thinking is going to happen to them? And I think it's really important for all of us to reach out in that way, but it's also important for countries to reach out to other countries, for us to be talking to each other about how do we manage the situation? How do we take advantage of it? Because to come back to my first point, and I think this is really the message I want to leave you with, migration is an inevitable fact of life for a great many people. It is not true to say that people staying in one place all the time is the norm or the normal. It isn't. It simply isn't the case. And that we have to really emphasize in everything we do and say the positive nature of this transformation that can take place. But it can only be really positive if we pay attention to it, if we invest in people, we invest in the social infrastructure that people need, if we invest in housing, we invest in the ways in which we welcome people. And the most important thing we have to invest in is educating everyone to know that we have nothing to fear from each other. The arrival of people who come with different backgrounds, with different religions, with different ways of thinking about the world should not be a source of fear. And it should certainly not be a source of hate. And so we have to transform that with love and with care and with celebration. And I have a suspicion that that's something that we're going to be seeing more of. So let me turn it over to you, Ugochi. I think you're coming up next, or maybe somebody else is supposed to introduce you more properly. We improvise things. Would you like to do this? Okay, then come up here. Take the mic away from me. Thank you all very much for coming. Watch the step there. It's a little tricky.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Rashmi Jaipal, and I'm a psychologist from the NGO Committee on Migration, Subcommittee on Xenophobia, Racism, and Social Inclusion. And I will be the moderator of this event. I want to say on behalf of the NGO Committee on Migration that we really want to thank the Ambassador Ray, and the Canadian Mission for the generous hosting of this event and for their kind offer of all their resources and their wonderful staff. So we really appreciate the collaboration. So thank you. And we are now also very honored to have with us Ugochi Daniels, Deputy Director of Operations of the International Organization for Migration. So she will also be making opening remarks, and we're very pleased to have her.
Hi, everyone. Okay, this mic doesn't move. It's working? Okay. Okay. Okay, that's fine, as long as you can hear me. So, Excellency, Ambassador, friends, my colleagues, where to start? There's a lot to say, and I was told I have only 4 minutes. So let me try and make sure I stay within the 4 minutes. So first of all, much appreciation for inviting IOM to this event, for having the opportunity to give opening remarks. And, you know, following on what Ambassador has said, in a time where the world is so polarized and where the narrative around migration can be very, very toxic, events such as these and the opportunity to be more balanced about the potential of migration, and more importantly, to actually promote migration, the benefits that it brings for all, is so critically important. Obviously, it's a topic near and dear to the heart of the International Organization for Migration, where I work, IOM. And note, in the words of the Secretary General, this year's International Migrant Day, that the theme is that migration is a fact of life and a force for good. And maybe just sharing a bit of a personal story, and Ambassador, you may not know this, but I grew up in Canada, in a small town called St. Catharines, Ontario. And my migrant journey has been a successful one, even though my family left Nigeria during a very brutal civil war. But the reality is that for many migrants, it's not a successful journey, and it's not a successful outcome. And key to it being a successful outcome is what happens with integration and how integration happens or does not happen. And migrant inclusion is a really, really important part of the migration phenomenon. And why today is so important is that we can see that multicultural activities or facilitating connections through sports, through music, through media, through cooking, through dance are critically important. And not just because it brings people together around issues that touch us, I mean, food, sports, music, but also because it enables exchange through diversity and the richness of that diversity and what the exchange brings between two people or more than two people who come from such a diverse background. So for IOM, we also see this critically important for the host communities themselves as well, not just for the migrants, but also for the host communities as an opportunity to understand the added value that this diversity is bringing to the community, how this dispels the myths, the fear, the negativity that can be associated with migration, and to really appreciate the resilience the resilience of migrants through despite the challenges that they've gone through on their journey. Ambassador just spoke of what's happening in the Darien in Colombia. I recently was participating in an event called that the Darien is not a route, which is I don't want to say slogan, but the theme that the countries are trying to get across. But the reality is the Darien is a route, and it is the route, and they go through horrific experiences. And the one that really touched me was and there are many, but this one in particular was a woman who had 3 kids, and her third child was a 4-month-old daughter, and she left the daughter behind in the jungle without diapers, without food, and the baby was found. I'm a mother of 3 kids. I cannot imagine the situation that I will be in, that I will abandon one of my kids with the logic of it's better to have 2 out of the 3 survive than losing all 3. So the resilience that migrants bring is a rich contribution to their communities. And we believe that inclusion is not just about migrants having access to services or being integrated in the labor market, which of course is very important, but holistic migration inclusion involves social and relational aspects, and that connection with their host community. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here about all the stuff we've done as IOM, building tools to support capacity building around inclusion. I won't go into that here, but what I will emphasize is the importance of effective activities for social cohesion. Lastly, and given that we are the data agency, I have to say that we talk about youthful populations in the South, but it's really important to have a more nuanced narrative, particularly when it comes to young migrants between the ages of 15 and 14, who are about 13% of the total migrant population, as well as what it means for children, as well as what it means for young women, girls who are migrants, and the diversity of the experiences that they have. But this is supposed to be a very happy event. All of us here in the room, I think we're probably here because we're all like-minded and very supportive of migration, of the benefits for all. So without further ado, and I'm very thankful that there isn't a 4-minute counter that's ticking down. So thank you very much for that. But I'm sure I've used up my 4 minutes. And just to say once again from IOM, deep appreciation to the Government of Canada and deep appreciation from me personally, because my successful migrant journey is because of the support and welcoming I received when I was in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director, for your remarks, especially on the importance of a holistic approach to inclusion and integration. That's really important. And also how the harrowing journeys that people have to go through. But there's so much to say. Next time, we hope we can hear more from you, give you more time. So thank you again. And we are now going to hear from Cecily Kern. She's the chair of the NGO Committee on Migration, which was one of the co-organizers of the event.
Thank you, Rashmi. Ambassador Ray, Deputy Director General, our wonderful and energizing panelists, dear friends in person and online. Thank you for being here with us today to join the Committee on Migration in our celebration of International Migrants Day today and on Monday and every other day. We'll go through the same thank yous, but thank you to our co-sponsors, the Mission of Germany, the GCM Champion Countries Initiative, the Group of Friends of Migration, and of course, I want to express our immense gratitude to our friends and partners at the Permanent Mission of Canada to the United Nations for your collaboration on what is becoming a tradition for us to celebrate International Migrants Day together. So thank you for hosting and co-organizing this event so generously. I will try to keep my remarks short so that we can hear our wonderful panelists, but I'm just so excited to welcome you all to this event to celebrate the ways in which migrants enrich our communities and our societies. I am excited to be energized by our panel of speakers who will share their experiences with Battery Dance, which is just such a vibrant and engaging organization, which exercises cultural diplomacy through dance to break down barriers between people and promote social inclusion. Battery Dance has worked with 17 of the GCM champion countries, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about their rich experiences in these countries and many more. In so many places around the world, we see politics used to drive a negative narrative around migrants and migration that seeks to exclude and dehumanize them. And in our digital media age, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation are used by different actors, both intentionally and not, to cause harm and mislead and manipulate public perceptions. And these attitudes have real impacts. They leave room for and fuel hatred and racism, xenophobia, criminalization, and violence against migrants and their families. But organizations like Battery Dance are important in order for us to reframe discussions of migration in order to promote social cohesion and to remove barriers to social inclusion, to focus on solidarity and reciprocity, to ensure that migrants, refugees, and diaspora communities who often have very limited voice in the political and media narratives around them are given space to be part of these conversations. And this is where the vital role of culture really shines, using music and food and dance and spiritual practice as communication, using these tools to preserve and celebrate one's own culture and identity, and also to bring people together. So thank you for being here with us to celebrate International Migrants Day, and I will pass off to Rashmi to moderate our panel. Thank you.
Take your places while I introduce them. So thanks a lot, Cecily. And now we're going to come to the panel. The panel, they have so much. I really highly recommend reading their bios. You should have gotten the bios in the emails that we sent. There's really impressive. So I'm just, to save time, I'm going to rush through the intros and introduce them very briefly, but really please read their bios. It's worth it. And the other thing I wanted to just give you an alert for is that the panel is going to be recorded, but when the question and answer session begins, they'll stop recording so the audience, so there's no worries about being on the recording. It's just for the panel that they're going to be recorded. Now we're presenting this panel because the focus right now is very much on implementation of the SDGs and the GCM. And as you're going to see, the Battery Dance Project exemplifies best practices for the implementation of the GCM objectives 16 and 17, overcoming xenophobia and fostering social inclusion. Their work really does that on the ground. So it's really, that's why we wanted to present it at the UN to the UN community. You can see this is something to know about. So the first speaker is Jonathan Hollander. He's the founder, artistic director, and choreographer of Battery Dance. He has an extraordinary vision of how dance can heal a divided and conflict-ridden world. He's a trailblazer in the field of dance, widely recognized as one of the outstanding choreographers of his generation. And his works have been presented across 5 continents, and he was actually awarded the Federal Order of Merit by the German president in honor of the great commitment and leadership in bringing young people together across borders through cultural exchange. So just want to say what the kind of work that he's been doing. Secondly, we have Emad Salem, originally from Cairo, Egypt, and the executive director of Battery Dance, overseeing operations, global programs, and evaluation. He has advised NGOs, multilateral organizations, and governments on capacity development and research methodologies and on the social impact of the arts. Thirdly, from Texas, we have Elena Korbut, the executive director of the Partnership for the Advancement and Immersion of Refugees, a Houston nonprofit organization supporting refugee students through educational mentoring programs and advocacy efforts. And I think it's the largest resettlement agency in the country for refugees. And Elena took the lead in organizing Battery Dance's first ever US Dancing to Connect project in Houston in 2022. And all the way from Germany, we have Mahmoud Haji, founder WISA, an NGO in Germany that promotes integration of migrants and refugees. He migrated from Syria without his parents in 2015 as a teenager, where he took part in a Dancing to Connect program in Frankfurt. He became a performer and a spokesperson for refugees and migrants as an elected member of a government organization that conducts anti-discrimination campaigns and combats right-wing extremism and racism. So these are our panelists, and I also want to acknowledge Eva Richter, a wonderful lady and chair of our subcommittee. She first brought Battery Dance to our awareness, realizing the importance of their work as a best practice for integration at the grassroots level. Without her, this event would not have been possible. So now I'm going to hand it over to you, Jonathan, to start the panel.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. It's a great honor to be part of this event. I want to thank the ambassador and the deputy director and the chair of these organizations, and of course, the permanent mission here of Canada that has worked with us, sort of hand-holding to get us to this point, and to the permanent mission of Germany, which has allowed us to bring Mahmoud here to enrich the panel. I founded Battery Dance in 1976 in the financial district of New York City, where there were no theaters, no real venues for people to appreciate the arts. And given that setting, at the same time as the American bicentennial, when ships came to New York Harbor and sailors from all over the world were populating the streets of the city, it was a perfect time to envision a dance company that could make a difference in communities, particularly the Lower Manhattan community, without art, but with people who could be enlightened and appreciated by arts. And at the same time, to forward my personal agenda of being a choreographer and expressing myself through dance. So I was very fortunate to gather people around me to create an institution, a nonprofit tax-exempt charitable organization, and to gather the support at first to work very locally in New York City public schools and to perform in the city, to create new works, and to go out onto the streets, parks, and plazas of Lower Manhattan and see that people would come out of their workplaces, 1,000 people, instead of the 100 or 50 that would come to a black box theater, and enjoy the dance that we would do for free. And this became sort of a mantra of Battery Dance that we've carried throughout the world, that the arts should be accessible to everyone, that the arts are a vehicle for social cohesion and bringing people together, bringing some joy into a sometimes dismal life. And it's been a privilege for us. Rashmi has asked me several times, how does a dance company get into the field of social cohesion and social justice? How does a dance company move out of the dance studio and into the world in the way that Battery Dance has? And I think it, that we as artists all want to realize each part of ourselves. We don't want to make a choice that limits what we can do in the world. And the more that we work in our field and the more that we explore the different avenues for change, and we see change happening in front of our eyes with a high school student in New York City who may be failing academically and who comes alive on stage. So we learned our lessons from the sort of learning laboratory of New York City public schools, where in the 70s, you can imagine, with the economy in New York sort of failing, that the arts were cut, always the first thing to be cut from schools. So seeing change happen very locally in New York City, I think you know that the New York City school system has over 1 million students in it. And depending on what neighborhood you live in, you may have access to the arts or you may not. And even though New York City has adopted a blueprint for teaching the arts, that every benchmarks for what every student should know, depending on the school, none of that may be available. So groups like Battery Dance and theater companies and music groups have filled that gap over time. And that's how we developed dancers who are magnificent on stage and talented choreographers themselves, but also nurturing teaching artists. So when we go to Nigeria, which we did this past summer for the 3rd time, or we go to Malta, or we go to Houston, we're bringing with us the philosophy that the arts can change lives and that dance is not something that should be relegated to a frivolous kind of activity, which is something that we are battling all the time because people don't understand and don't have access to a forum like this, where we have the opportunity to come out of our dance studio and out of the specific programs that we're running and speak to an audience of people who are working on policy and working at a higher level in terms of understanding and wanting to find out how can you implement programs in the trenches that actually have the impact of all of these things that we've been discussing, that, bringing people together, eliminating the fear of one and the other. We've worked in over 26 cities in Germany. And during the pandemic, we were able to figure out how to work through the remote platform. And that gave us access to even more cities and students across the way. And right from the beginning, in the year 2006, that was the turning point for me and for Battery Dance, because that's when we had the opportunity to work in Germany, Cambodia, and New York City public schools in a very constrained time frame. It wasn't 10 weeks. It wasn't a school year. It was a week. And what can you do in a week? You cannot teach somebody how to dance in a week. But what can you leave behind? What can you bring out in young people? And so this is where the Dancing to Connect methodology was born, that we realized we have very limited time and we wanted to do something that had true impact and empowered young people. So to explain the methodology, in general, in the old school way that we used to work, where we would run workshops, the expert from New York would stand in front of the room and everybody would imitate that person and try to emulate them. Instead, we do no demonstration whatsoever. The movement, the choreography, the storytelling comes from the participants themselves. So nothing is prefabricated. Day one, a group of young people, normally in Germany, for example, made up of refugees, migrants, and native students from wherever the town or city is that we're working, 20 young people in one group over 20 hours, usually spread out across a week. And over that time, the students get, I think it's like the 3rd day is that magical day where instead of having lunch on either side of the room, everybody is sharing, everybody is becoming Facebook friends, and you can see that that otherness is gone. Everybody's dancing together and they have a goal. They have to make a piece of choreography and it has to be performed on stage on the 6th day of the workshop. So there's no time to lose and there's no time to sort of have fear. You can't dance with somebody that you fear or distrust. So I've seen this happen time after time. And it's true to say that in programs in over 60 countries, I have never seen a group that did not finish. I don't know how you can ever have that kind of success rate on anything. We all, understand that you fail and you pick up and you start again. But in this case, it's been 100% success. And I'm going to be showing a compilation of 3 video clips that will take you to our projects in Canada, Malta, and South Korea. And in the last one, the South Korean context, you're going to be seeing a North Korean defector and her South Korean counterpart, 2 groups that when they first met were as opposite as you could imagine, even in terms of physical size. The North Koreans basically had were smaller, and they were shrunken in terms of their sense of confidence and their sense of themselves. And what they had been through, I can't even imagine. And the South Korean students were like hip and blue hair and ready to go and, on top of the world as far as and the fact that this could blend in 5 days so that on the last day in the performance, you could not actually detect who was coming from where. So I think I just want to go over the methodology very quickly once again. 20 hours, groups of 20 to 25 students, ages 14 and up, and mixture of different people, whether this is in Belfast with Catholics and Protestants, whether it's in Israel with Arab and Jewish Israelis, whether it's in Brazil with students of private dance studios mixed with students who have absolutely no ability to have that kind of extra activity in their lives. So the issue of migration, the issue of inclusion that the Deputy Director General and the Ambassador was speaking about. And when the Ambassador said Canada, the personality of Canada is made up by migrants, I felt the same way about Battery Dance. It's like our friends, our contacts, our network, the people that mean something to us are across the boards in terms of where they came from, what language they speak, and what they speak is the universal language of dance. So let's bring on the video excerpts. In every part of the world, there is conflict. We cannot separate ourselves and live in the hermetic environment of a dance studio. We have to think about ways that we can get outside of the studio to share what has enriched us in our own lives. And through these workshops, perhaps some of the young people who participate in the programs will pursue dance in one way or another in their lives after this. But if nothing else, they will have had the opportunity to delve into their self-expression, self-confidence, teamwork, all these different skills that are involved in the creation of something that relies on their individual voice and then the communal voice of the group in which they're working.
Yeah, my name is Anna Nasri, and I'm from Somalia.
And what are you doing here in Malta?
Just I'm doing here, and I came last year, 16 August, in a month by a small boat, illegal immigrant, I see.
Okay.
Actually, I almost in here 1 year. So I do, because I'm trying to make education, some education ever, but I still didn't get it in my home, but I make some educations. But the great thing is now I'm making a dance. That's my first job. In my country, I didn't get that chance.
And so how did you find working with Clement?
Actually, he came from us also. Then they inform us. Some dancer from the embassy of let's say America came something like that. And I meet him for the. I think it's the right one, and it's the best one.
Why did you decide to participate in this project?
Actually, first the two things. Firstly, I like it most. The second thing when I see this program and this company also is give us a chance for free.
Yes.
Yes, that's why we want to participate.
Yes.
And even the climate, I think it's the right one. It's just not like teacher for us, just like encourage for us to create for something.
Well, we're so happy to have you be part of this, and the work that you all did is very beautiful. Do you feel emotion coming from this dance?
Yes, yes. Actually, the dancing that we make in a meaning, because where we come from, more than 2 decades that come from this influence Somali. But the last song you want to make, I brought for the dance. I say, somehow talking about the way we come from, struggling, it's a wake up Somalia, something like that.
Do you think the people in Malta understand what you've been through? Your history and
Actually, first of all, I would like to make this chance. I would like to appreciate all Malta authorities and Malta people, because they give up so many things for us. When we are in ocean, we die, we sink it. They save for us.
that's incredible.
So I would like to say, all of you, God bless you and protect you more than you can imagine. All of you guys, all of you, Malta. I love them. It's like my second, my mom, my country.
And we saw that in your dance with the boat.
Yes, when we sing it, like we're talking, first we started for the dancing, like running to crossing the borders, because we crossed Ethiopia, Sudan, so many countries to cross. When you cross the border, already the soldiers there. And sometimes they shoot you, and sometimes you receive an injury. So that's why we act the first things. The second thing, some of my friends, they're injured, and we carry them. Finally, we are making a boat. Then they say, help me, something like that. And Malta authority, they come, the Navy of Malta, they say for us.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So that's why I was living like that.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so all the way across, you have to feel each other's energy. Go.
자신을 말로 표현할 수 없는 걸 춤으로 표현할 수 있고, 춤으로 이렇게 제가 생각하는 거는 춤으로 다 표현하고, 그리고 자유를 이렇게 춤춘다는 것 자체가 이렇게 자유를 표현한 거라고 생각해요, 저는.
Don't be afraid to go on the floor. You got
조금씩 처음보다는 친해지고, 그러니까 조금 마음을 열게 되고, 이렇게 말을 걸게 되고, 이렇게 말하고 싶고, 그러니까 이렇게 좋게 연결되는 것 같아요.
Okay. The first day was rough for me. Like I went back to the hotel. I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with these kids? You know, because they were very shy. And then after a while, I saw today, like everything changed. They're breaking out of the shells and they're kind of communicating with each other between the North and the South. Now they're mixing together, which is really good.
그래서 더 싸워.
Yeah.
So my name is Emad Salem, and I think you just saw from those videos and the interviews, that qualitative kind of impact that the Dancing Scenic program has, the opportunity for them to share their stories and collaborate with one another in the creation of something that tells who they are together. You can see from that the impact that it's had, but we also measure quantitatively the impact on the participants. And so what we do is we conduct pre and post program questionnaires measuring a host of indicators on youth development, conflict resolution indicators, and then we do hypothesis testing on the difference between means. So the difference, trying to look at the difference in the responses between participants from before the program until after. And so next slide. And the results I'm about to share are all statistically significant results with 95% confidence. And we just saw the North Korean defector in that video and Sean, our teaching artist, talking about confidence. In this program that include the North Korean directors, Chinese migrants, and South Koreans across the board, we saw a 80% increase in the levels of very high confidence. The pink or purplish pinkish that you see is before, the blue is after, and you can see the increase in high confidence. This is particularly revealing with the North Korean participants, actually. You see a nearly more than doubling in the very high confidence level of the North Korean defectors that took place in the program on the right, from before the program in pink to after in blue. And then you see that the ability to resolve disagreements or conflicts in a positive way. The respondents, the participants that indicated that they strongly believed in that, it tripled from before the program until after the program. You see in the bottom left. And then in the bottom right, you see a more than doubling in participants and their ability, their strong agreement in their ability to create positive change in their community. And so the number of respondents to this questionnaire was about 128 participants that participated in this program that results in all of our programs. And since 2016, we've been doing programs of integration in Germany. And these are the results from one of those years. In 2017, we see that the perceptions of Germans from the migrant refugee participants, it increased from before the program to after. And then you look to the right and you see the perceptions of the migrants and refugees from the German participants, the German perceptions of the people that they were working with drastically increased. You see the increase in the very positive perceptions, increasing, I have the number here, but well, you can see it. And then you see the very negative going down as well. And what that led to is an increase in the confidence of the migrants and refugees in their ability to create positive change. You see that there's a 65% increase in the participants who strongly agreed from before the program in pink to after the program in yellow or gold. And we saw an increase in leadership among migrant and refugee participants as well. We see a nearly 50% increase in migrants and refugees who believe that they were leaders from before the program to after. So quantitatively, from this 1-week dance program in which the participants don't know each other, have most of the time do not have any prior dance experience, might not even speak the same language and are now able to communicate that way by working together through the language of dance and movement. And by sharing their stories, they learn more about themselves, the people they're working with. Next slide. Part of what we try to achieve as well is not just impact among the participants, which I love this picture because you just see the joy after a performance, but also a changing of perceptions among audience members. And one of the extensions of our Dancing to Connect program, which is very similar, is a program we call Spoken Word and Dance. It's an extension of Dancing to Connect, the same kind of principle in which migrants create and perform their own stories and their own vision for the future for an audience. And so we developed a program a couple of years ago. It featured 2 Iraqi migrants, and I'm just going to set the stage before I show the results for this. And we first launched this program at the New York Public Library here in New York. And the day that it was set to happen, the day before, there was a terrorist attack on the West Side Esplanade, a truck attack. And so audience members, there was some audience members who came out in opposition of the program, anger. And next slide. And what we did is we asked the audience members before the program to list 3 words that came to mind when they thought about Muslims. And we asked them the same question after. And you can see the results from the word cloud here. Word cloud, the way that it essentially operates is the more words that people report, the larger the word is. And so you see here from before the event, Quran, terror, terrorism, mosque, religious, against women, negative perceptions after the event. Human beings, diverse, misunderstood, interesting, beautiful. And this was after a 1-hour performance. So pretty incredible. And so we decided to replicate that in addition to Dancing to Connect in Houston in partnership with Elena and Pear. We replicated that in Houston, Texas, and we saw similar results before the program. The words that appeared that people reported the most had to do with religion. You see war there, Middle East, regional. After the performance, again, human, love, beauty, 1-hour performance. And so what we see from the statistical data of the participants, what we see from these word clouds with audience members is that through that interaction, through that art where people are just sharing their stories and communicating their stories through movement and able to meet one another in a non-political, safe setting, we're able to see that there's greater increase in understanding and empathy and the greater realization that there's more that we're more alike than different, right? That we're all human beings. So that was the Houston program. And so we're so pleased to have Elena here from Pear to discuss the Houston program. We actually have a video that is kind of an intro to that program.
It was so fun. I came here, I didn't know nobody, and then we got to introduce everybody and know them and like where they came from, what they do.
Gonna be sad that we're leaving them. We had fun, and then the fun is gonna end, you know? I feel like the reason why we came there is it was to connect and make new friends.
So it was so cool. Like I learned new things. I learned like new kind of like dancing skills to like teach others, and it was so good. Like I wasn't expecting that. It's awesome.
And now the true stars of the evening.
We made a lot of friends. Yes, it was really good. I love the show. We love everything was amazing. It's a whole experience. It's a whole experience. It's a whole experience.
You are very good. It's a video camera, man.
You are so fun. Make new friends. Meet new people. Yeah. Yeah. Like I love the choreography. Yeah.
Perfect segue into my part. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you for the warm welcome. My name is Elena Korbut. I'm the Executive Director of Pear Houston. We work exclusively with refugee youth. We provide educational mentoring support, but really our big goal is to prevent the vicious cycle of poverty, because it is very common for the refugee population to experience generational poverty. I am myself a migrant as well, twice over. I was born in Moscow, Russia originally. I moved to Portugal at the age of 11, and then thank you. What's really interesting about Texas and Houston in particular, Texas, as you may know, has quite conservative attitudes towards immigrants, migrants, and refugees. And Houston is interesting in itself because the center of Houston is very welcoming and very liberal in the sense of receiving refugees. We've been doing this since the 70s, so we have a long tradition of welcoming the refugee population. But there are definitely these pockets within the city and the state. And so when I joined Pear in April of last year, my board members immediately told me, do not worry, but we have this major project that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. And I think that they were just very worried about my reaction because working previously in refugee resettlement, art is something that's typically overlooked. It's not something that is being really invested in because I think that people tend to assume that the results from artistic endeavors are hard to measure as opposed to, let's say economic programs and such. But I was particularly excited about this project because art has been such an important part of my life, of making me feel like home, both in Portugal and then here in the US. And I've seen the value of artistic programs when it comes to integration of migrants and refugees in the communities. And it's absolutely powerful to have been part of this experience. When Jonathan and I started working together, we were tasked with we had this major task of bringing together this group of students, and they were both migrants, refugees, and there were kids from local schools. And as you have heard, we only had a week to make this incredible project happen. I will say that I was really worried the first day when we started this project because you could see from the body language of the students, of our students that were part of this project, how incredibly stressful and awkward this experience was initially for them. And then this magical day 3 that took place, all those inhibitions were, people would just transform those experiences, this organic connection that the students experienced. And, I spent so much time during my career in refugee resettlement doing, PowerPoint presentations, talking to the community and educating the community about the refugee cause. But I'll say when it comes to projects like this, the impact is so much greater that what we initially imagined, because people really connect to each other in a way that does not require the knowledge of the language. It's this organic connection that the students experience. And with the help of incredible instructors, the students are able to tell their own story. And one of these students was actually a former client of mine from Syria, and this family came to Houston back in 2016. I followed their journey from the beginning. It was a very difficult journey. And so one of the students, her name is Rama, she was part of this project. And when I tell you that on the first day, I was worried. I was primarily worried about Rama because she experienced so much trauma, and it's difficult for her sometimes to connect to her peers. And so we kind of watched this process unfold, and this first day where we were worried that maybe she will withdraw, she will not enjoy this experience as much as we thought that it would. And it was such an incredible transformation that took place in just a short week. And when we watched our students perform at the end of this week on this major stage at this huge venue in Houston, I think it took our breath away, because we're obviously, as staff members, we're biased and we're there to support our students. But I think that none of us expected that the level of professionalism and how talented our students looked, and how well they worked together, interacted with each other. And one of the consequences of this program, we were bombarded by students, both by refugee migrant students and local students, to continue this program. So on a weekly basis, I would receive a message that would say, can you help us find funding for this? We want to do this on our own terms. We want to do this in our school. And that to me was absolutely incredible, because obviously, as we measure the impact and see the results of how perceptions change, just to see this reaction from students themselves was absolutely transformational. And I cannot thank you enough for for that experience. And so I think that what want to really emphasize is the fact of how important it is to have this exchange that happens, right? And so in refugee resettlement, we talk a lot about this private-public partnership and how jobs are obviously very important for these newly arrived newcomer families to become financially stable. But what oftentimes gets overlooked are kids. And as you know, and myself again as a migrant, kids assume a lot of adult responsibilities. And this is particularly true for those families where adults don't speak English. And so you end up going to banks, social security offices with your parents. You end up being their translator. And so this age is so absolutely crucial to invest in. And I cannot say enough about the importance of art because it is a universal language. It brings people close together, but it also creates this dialogue in the community. And it's really hard to hate up close, right? And so when we had the opportunity to, besides the dancing portion, to also have a speaking component of it, it was incredible to watch the community come together and transform within 1 hour. We had several former refugees that were part of the spoken word component of this program. And you could just see how in the span of 1 hour, the public that was part of this event really warmed up and opened up, and they were really curious. And I think that this is exactly what the migrant and refugee community needs, is for people to express interest in them and to not just see them as somebody who is not welcome in the community or who is often overlooked. And so I think that this gave an opportunity to tell their story through dance, through spoken word, but also created this effect of wanting more. And I think it's really important to continue to invest in programs like this because again, you obviously can do this in so many ways and spread awareness about migrants and positive impact that they have. And the exchange of culture that takes place, right? Because it's not just about what we offer as a host country to migrants and refugees, but how much they bring us. I'm getting close. Thank you. And so I just wanted to leave it on this note of being creative in the ways that we generate awareness about migrants and refugees in the community, and to continue to invest in cultural programs and artistic programs, because that's exactly what helps with integration, and it helps generate this dialogue within the community without doing this through a PowerPoint presentation in a much better, organic and fun way.
Thank you, Elena. And I mean, we're so fortunate to have Mahmoud with us to speak from the participants' perspective, everything Elena was saying about the importance of art and integration and what migrants really want and the feeling of belonging. And back in, I think it was 2016, Mahmoud, was that the year? Yeah. Fortunately, I interviewed you in Frankfurt as a Dancing to Connect participant, not knowing that we would all be here together again 6 or 7 years later. And I think we have that video that we're just going to show.
Oh, what's your name?
My name is Mahmoud from Syria. I enjoyed this program because I'm so interested to dancing, to meet the other people from the other language, other cities, and communication with them. I hope to have lots of friends. My family see me on TV. I know that I'm good. I'm in Germany. I'm nervous because that's the first time I will dance with the public. Generally, how I feel. I feel sometimes very happy, sometimes so sad. It's my family because I'm with my brother here.
Syria, they can't come to Germany for the borders closed. They think about them and what they do. I wanted to say thank you for this experience that we are here and with other people. Thanks.
Thank you. Leaving Syria in 2015 was tough because of some political problems since the war started 2011. My brother and I had to sneak into Turkey and then go on a small boat to Greece. We walked a lot in the Balkans, even when it was cold, raining, and it was snowing. It was hard, but we kept going because we wanted to find a safe place. Back in Syria, my dad worked in constructions. So he sent us, me and my brother, to Germany to have a better future. We had a very good childhood, although we couldn't afford everything we wanted, but we were really happy. So my father sent us, he said, you have to go to study. He believed in education. He said us, you have to work or study something that make him proud of us and that people respect us for it. Now let me tell you more about my journey to Germany through Croatia. On the way, I get separated from my brother. He was over 18, so he had all our papers and money for our travel to Germany. I was under 18 and know a bit of English. I saw a Croatian officer with lots of stars on his uniform. I talked to him and I told him my brother was outside with our papers and money, and without him, I couldn't leave the Croatian refugee camp. The officer was nice and sent 2 police officers with me. Together, we searched and we found my brother and we went back to the camp. After hugging my brother, we both cried a lot. It was a moment I will never forget when people saw us with police officers outside. Others were waiting for help to get into the refugee camp, but I couldn't do anything because the officers only allowed me and my brother to back in. I felt really sad and helpless because I couldn't bring more people into the camp with us. Back then, I made a promise to myself that if I given the opportunity in the future, I would use my abilities to help as many people as I could. Moving on my journey, we went to Hungary and then Austria. In Austria, we had to stay at the train station in Vienna overnight because it was dark and there was no more trains to Germany. The next morning, I met some people from a group that help others. I told them, we don't have much money to continue to Germany. And those kind people paid for our train tickets. We came to Germany. We didn't know anyone. I remember when the train announced next stop, Frankfurt am Main. We know Frankfurt because it was a famous city, so we decided to get off there. We were really hungry because we hadn't eaten since the last night before. When we got off the train, we saw Frankfurt's main station. My brother and I felt a strong connection to the city. That was why we chose to stay in Frankfurt. We walked around and found a restaurant with a sign in Arabic. Luckily, the owner understood and gave us food at a lower price. Then we tried to register ourselves with the police in Germany. They sent us to a place where refugees stay. It was a big sport hall with 200 people, and there was no privacy. It was noisy. People from different countries. It was September 2015. It was tough. We couldn't sleep well, eat peacefully, use toilet comfortably, or even charge our phones. In September 2015, Chancellor Merkel said, "Wir schaffen das," translated in English, "We can do it," and opened border for us, migrants and refugees, to come to Germany. About a month later, they moved us to a different place, and then another one after that. Finally, we ended up in a city called Rodgau, a place we didn't know at all. It was really tough because for the first 6 months, we didn't know anyone. No one told us where to buy things, find clothes, get bread, or even go to school or German classes. We had to find everything by ourselves and with help of Google and YouTube. Because back then we didn't know how to use Google Maps to find places or how to do it. Google Maps is banned in Syria. This is why we couldn't use it. Yeah. After 6 months, a kind lady from an organization that helped refugees came to us. She took me to a school to learn German. This was a big deal because before that, we felt pretty lost without any help. Learning German and being connected to others in the community made a huge difference for us. Few months later, our school announced that a dance group from New York would come to teach us dancing with the Dancing to Connect program. The deal was we would show what we learned and created on a stage in front of many people we don't know them. At the first, I didn't join, even though I loved the idea of dancing. I always loved to dance. But where I come from, guys dancing outside weddings or special event where close friends and family are represented is not really accepted. However, I thought a lot about it, and 2 days later, I decided to sign up and break these social rules. I told my family about it, so they wouldn't think I did something sneaky behind them. Yeah. They knew I liked dancing, so they were okay with it. They said, go ahead, Mahmoud, dance if it makes you happy. And my mom, in the same time, she saw a dream about me becoming an ambassador. And so she said, maybe this program is the start. You don't know. Yeah, these things gave me more motivation because in our cultures, we do believe in dreams. If someone dream in something, so yeah, it might come true. Yeah, and it was extra motivation. A few days later, I found out that some classmates signed up too. That gave me even more energy because I saw others joining to this program. I must admit, deciding to join the Dancing to Connect program changed my whole life. It was my first chance to meet people from the USA and see that they were very nice and not like we heard in Syria about Americans being bad, etc. These stereotypes. This program erased the idea I had about Americans and taught me to trust myself, to do things I love, and not worry about what others think. It helped me to grow up and discover different parts of myself, boosting my self-confidence. As I stood there, ready to dance, the fear was overwhelming me behind the curtains. I almost let it take it over, wanting to give up right there, but then I thought about my family and how they support me all along. Their encouragement echoed in my head, and it gave me the strength to push through. Stepping onto the stage that day, October 3rd, 2016, was a moment of courage and resilience. The venue was filled with many faces in the audience. Despite the initial fear, once the music started, I felt something incredible. It was like the fear melted away and I was free. When I danced, I felt like I was flying, like I was in a different world. It was incredible, filled with happiness and freedom. The applause at the end was not just for the dance. It was for the journey, the bravery, and the collective effort of everyone involved. It was about discovering sense of liberation and joy that I had never experienced before. It was a turning point, a moment of triumph over my own doubts and the societal norms that once held me back. After the program ended, we received certificate. I'm still proud to have my first dance certificate. I have always stayed in contact with Jonathan Hollander after the program ended. And when he came to Germany, I visited him. And I had the opportunity to speak with young people behind the stage and share my own experience about the program. Program ended, everything ended, no dance more. Unfortunately, there was no dance school near of my city. So this is why I decided to go to the theater program to school. And I joined them. So through theater, through dance, I improved my language. I enjoyed it so much so that I stayed at school after regular classes to be part of it. However, when the pandemic hit and we had to switch to online theater, I didn't like it so much. Yeah, okay, sorry. I have to be quick, sorry.
continue hearing this delightful. I just wanted to let people know, and then after we finish it,
Thank you. So I will make it briefly. A few years down the line, an idea sparked within me: creation of NGO, an association to provide support and instill confidence in those arriving in Germany, something I wish I had when I first arrived. This inspiration stemmed from the transformative experience of the Dancing to Connect program. The idea to found WISA, Wir sind angekommen, arose from a deep desire not to just be a passive observers, but to be active shapers in the society. As a newcomer, we experienced the challenges and opportunities of integration at first hand and realized that this task must be tackled together. The moment in Croatia left a lasting impact on me. Feeling unable to assist others was challenging, and it sparked a deep commitment with me. This commitment became the driving force behind the creation of WISA, aiming to emphasize that we, as a newcomer, now belong to Germany. This is our home, and we actively contribute in it. Just like any other German citizen, we attend their schools, pay taxes, shop the same marks, and use same trains, and participate in cultural activities. The name WISA stands for Wir sind angekommen, translated in English, we have arrived. Since it's established, WISA has generated recognition through 4 awards. Wait, I don't know, I can skip this. Yeah. In our status, we state that our mission goes behind helping people to integrate. We want to be linked between people with and without migration background and promote an inclusive community characterized by mutual understanding and solidarity. Our association's idea is based on the firm convention that integration is a two-way process that requires the participation of all parts of society. It means not only we have to integrate, the society have to accept us. So this is what we're trying to do in our NGO. We work with many partners like schools, companies, and organizations to create an integration-friendly environment. We encourage people to share their success stories, to see that there are people who are successful in this new society. So we encourage them to do it. And I want really to make a big difference in the community. And I believe that getting involved in the politics in Germany is the way, because in Germany, everything is connected to politics. So I decided to become an active member of the Foreigner Advisory Board in Germany, Ausländerbeirat, in the city Rodgau where I live. I serve as a spoken person of refugees and migrants, and I was elected to present our local chapter. I am dedicated to helping refugees and migrants and fighting against unfair stereotypes, all while making our community more open and diverse. Yeah, I will end soon. Yeah, sorry. Our goal as a migrant and refugees is not to benefit from the support provided in our new home, but to actively participate in making things better. Whether it's joining community events, volunteering, or simply being friendly neighbors. It shows how we, as a group, become a part of the society, of our new communities. We want to be a part of ongoing story of our communities. So to end, our journey is not just about us. It's about all of us working together, make a friendly, lively, and happy place for everyone. We are thankful for the chances we've been given and excited about what comes next as we continue on this journey together. Thank you for your attention.
thank you very much, Mahmoud. That was delightful. I think it is time has come, but if anybody has any questions you'd like to ask or continue the discussion with the speakers, does anyone have any, yes?